Welcome to a quiet place where history moves slowly. Here, every story is told gently, every detail whispered softly, so your mind can rest and drift as we explore the past together. Now take a breath, relax, and let's begin. Tonight, we begin a long, gentle journey through 6,000 years of rest, 6,000 years of softening comfort, and the quiet evolution of something as simple and as human as the pillow. Let your breathing fall into a relaxed rhythm, slow, steady, effortless. Feel the weight of the day fall away as we drift backward, far backward, to a world of ancient rivers, warm stone, and the earliest cradles of civilization. Our journey begins between two rivers, whose names echo like slow heartbeats in the dark, the Tigris and the Euphrates. Welcome to Mesopotamia, land between two rivers. Imagine a vast landscape, wide and open, with long stretches of soft sandy earth, and fields nourished by water that glimmers in the sun. The people here carved out the first cities, Uruk, Babylon, places where humanity first learned to shape clay, write symbols, and build homes that rose above the ground. This is where comfort, as we understand it, begins its slow, ancient story. The days were warm, the nights cooler, and families gathered inside mud brick homes, as oil lamps flickered like floating fireflies. Within these early homes, people slept on raised platforms of woven reeds and firm mats crafted from plant fibers. But beneath their heads rested something unexpected, not soft, not warm, not yielding, a pillow carved from stone. The first pillows, stone supports. In these early civilizations, the pillow was not created for comfort in the way we know it today. It was created for protection. Imagine it, a smooth stone block, shaped so gently that it lifted the head just enough to keep the face elevated. Why? Because the world was different then. Homes had insects, small creatures wandering in the night, and lifting the head meant safety. A pillow was a tool of survival, as practical as a clay pot or a wooden bowl. Kings, workers, merchants, many used these stone pillows. In wealthier homes, the pillow might be beautifully carved, with lines, symbols, simple decorations. In simpler homes, it was only a humble shape, cut from a single piece of stone. Feel the weight of that idea. A pillow that does not yield, does not soften, does not welcome the head, but simply holds it in place. This was comfort 7,000 years ago, and yet there is a stillness to it that belongs perfectly in a sleep story. A warm room, the distant sound of goats settling for the night, a faint breeze entering through a small clay window, and a sleeper resting their head on stone as the desert air cools slowly around them. Daily life around the first pillows. Let's wander a little deeper into the daily life of Mesopotamian families who slept near these early pillows. At dawn, sunlight spilled across clay floors and painted soft golden lines against the walls. Women ground grain into flour on heavy stones. Children ran barefoot across courtyards. Men tended fields fed by irrigation channels, invented long before most civilizations even existed. At night, mats were rolled out, oil lamps were lit, and pillows, those hard curved supports, were placed carefully beneath the head. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't luxurious, but it was peaceful. Imagine lying in a quiet home as you listen to the murmur of a river in the distance and the soft crackle of a tiny flame burning in an oil lamp at your bedside. Symbolism and status. Not all stone pillows were the same. Some were small and simple, kept in modest homes with few possessions. Others were finely shaped and carved from beautiful stone, like alabaster or marble. A wealthy family might have pillows with delicate patterns etched onto the surface, symbols of gods, plants, or animals, meant to protect the sleeper. In the quiet hours of the night, stone pillows found in royal tombs were even more elaborate, evidence that, even in death, the pillow was considered essential, a companion in life and beyond. This shows us something beautiful. Humanity has always cared about how we rest, how we sleep, how we find peace between one day and the next. The science of ancient sleep. Mesopotamians believed the head held great spiritual importance. The head was the seat of dreams, visions, messages from gods who walked unseen through the night. Raising the head was more than practical, it was spiritual. A lifted head meant better breathing, clearer dreams, and alignment with divine protection. This belief shaped how pillows were built for thousands of years to come. Even today, many modern cultures still use raised wooden supports for spiritual meaning and physical alignment. This connection between sleep, spirit, and posture began right here with these ancient stone pillows. The sounds of a Mesopotamian night let the world around you soften as we imagine the gentle, peaceful atmosphere of a night in Mesopotamia. The air is warm, slow, and filled with sounds that drift in and out like a lullaby. The low, rhythmic chirping of insects, the distant rush of the river, the soft thump of pottery settling as it cools, and the muffled voices of families ending their day with quiet conversation. There were no engines, no glowing screens, no rush of traffic, only the natural world, the elements, and the simple rhythm of life slowing down. Pillows were made of stone, yet sleep was beautifully calm. Different shapes, different purposes. Stone pillows in Mesopotamia came in many forms. Some were small curves, just for the head. Others looked almost like miniature bridges, shaped to cradle the neck, without touching the shoulders. Some were rectangular. Some had small carved pedestals beneath them. Each shape tells archaeologists something about how the ancient people slept. Side sleepers, back sleepers, people who wanted breezes to flow freely beneath the neck, people who wanted to protect their hairstyles from collapsing overnight. Each pillow is a reminder of a life lived long ago, a night of sleep, lost to time, but not forgotten. Sparkles Chapter 8, the transition toward softness, foreshadowing. Toward the later centuries of Mesopotamian history, we see early experiments with softer materials, not yet soft pillows, but soft linings, cotton wrapping, wool cushions used for sitting. Humanity was slowly learning to appreciate softness. This slow shift sets the stage for the civilizations that follow, each one taking the idea of the pillow and shaping it into something new, something deeper, something gentler, from stone to wood to fabric, and eventually to the soft clouds beneath our heads today. But our journey is not done, not even close. Mesopotamia is only the beginning, the first hour of a long, soothing path through history. Settle in, breathe slowly, and let your mind follow the steady flow of the Nile, entering the land of the Nile. As the scene shifts from Mesopotamia, a soft, warm wind brushes across your imagination. You are drifting southwest, toward a land shaped by a single ribbon of life. The Nile River stretches before you, quiet and endless, glimmering beneath a pale moon. Every year it floods, every year it recedes, and every year it leaves behind rich, dark soil that has nourished Egypt for thousands of years. And it is here, along these fertile banks, that the story of the pillow grows richer, more symbolic, and more spiritual. A very different world. Egypt is not Mesopotamia. It moves to a different rhythm. It breathes with different beliefs. It sleeps with different symbols. Where Mesopotamia gave the world stone pillows that lifted the head, Egypt refined the idea with purpose and philosophy and ritual. In Egypt, even sleep was a sacred act. The sun god Are, the spiritual journey of the soul at night, the balance between life and afterlife. All of these shaped how Egyptians rested their heads. The Egyptian headrest. Imagine a slender shape, simple yet elegant. A small base, connected to a curved upper platform, designed to cradle the head, just above the shoulders. This is the Egyptian headrest. Not soft, not padded, not meant to sink into, but beautifully crafted, from wood, ivory, or stone. If Mesopotamian pillows were purely practical, Egyptian headrests became objects of spiritual meaning. Let your mind picture one, cool to the touch, smoothly polished, shaped with the same care as amulets and ceremonial tools. Some headrests were carved with images of gods. Beside them, protective symbols warded off nightmares and wandering spirits. Sleep, for an Egyptian, was not simply rest. It was a journey, and the headrest was the bridge that carried them safely into the world of dreams. The symbolism of raising the head. Egyptian beliefs held that the head, the seat of perception, identity, and spirit, needed to be elevated for safe passage through the night. A raised head meant clear breathing, spiritual alignment with the gods, protection from evil forces, a symbolic rise toward the sun. Every night, Egyptians believed the soul left the body to wander with the gods through the middle world. A raised head helped the soul return at dawn. In other words, a pillow was part of a spiritual system designed to guide the sleeper between realms. Imagine lying in a quiet Egyptian home, the faint smell of incense lingering in the air. Nighttime in ancient Egypt. Let's slow down and enter an Egyptian night. Deeply and calmly, the air is warm, but not oppressive. Palm leaves rustle softly overhead. Torches flicker on mud brick walls, their golden glow wobbling gently in the dark. Families gather on simple woven mats. Children drift off to sleep beside their parents. The scent of lotus oil floats lazily through the room. Outside, the night is alive. A distant jackal calls. Water ripples softly where the Nile flows steadily past. A boat creaks quietly as fishermen tie it to the bank. Inside the home, a wooden headrest waits. Beside each mat, a small but essential part of a sacred nightly ritual. This world feels ancient, yet timeless, simple, yet full of meaning. And slowly, as you imagine this calm environment, your own body begins to settle deeper into rest. Materials: wood, ivory, stone. Egyptians were master craftsmen, and their materials, carefully chosen, tell us more than words ever could. Wood, the most common material, smooth, polished, often carved with simple geometric patterns. Ivory, rare, expensive, reserved for royalty or high priests, shaped with extraordinary precision, sometimes inlaid with precious stones. Stone, often used for tombs, and placed beneath the head of the deceased to ensure spiritual safety. In the afterlife, each material had its own purpose, its own meaning, its own place. In the long ritual of Egyptian sleep, even the simplest headrest was created with intention, craftsmanship, and symbolic designs. Egyptian artisans were not simply workers, they were storytellers. Many headrests carry symbols of protection: the eye of Horus, the ankh, symbol of life, the scarab beetle, the jackal of Anubis. These were not decorations, they were safeguards for the sleeper's soul. Imagine tracing your fingers along a line carved 3,000 years ago, feeling the shallow grooves left by an artist. Sleep customs in Egyptian society. Let us step gently into the daily rhythm of Egyptian domestic life. People rose early, greeted the morning sun, and worked long hours under its bright light. When night came, they prepared for sleep carefully. Beds were rare for common families. Most slept on woven mats or simple wooden frames with linen sheets. The headrest was placed at the top of the sleeping surface, and because it was not soft, sleepers often lay slightly on their side or perfectly on their back. Egyptians valued posture, alignment, breathing. Even thousands of years ago, some families placed scented herbs nearby: lotus, tomomila, mint, believing they calmed the body and purified the air. All of these small details form a portrait of a culture that cared deeply about rest, not just physically, but spiritually. The pillow in tombs and the afterlife. Here in Egypt, the pillow is not just for the living, It has a purpose that extends beyond life. In many tombs, archaeologists have found beautifully carved headrests, placed carefully beneath the heads of the deceased. These were not tokens. They were tools to guide the soul into the next world. They lifted the head so that the spirit could rise and travel freely. They protected the sleeper in both worlds, the earthly and the eternal. For Egyptians, death was not an end. It was a continuation of the soul's journey. And even in that eternal sleep, a pillow played its part, a shift toward softness. Not all Egyptian pillows were hard. As centuries passed, linen became more common, soft, cool, and breathable. In the desert heat, we find references to folded cloth, sometimes used beneath the head. In later dynasties, softness was entering the world, slowly, quietly, but undeniably. Yet the headrest remained dominant, because it aligned with religious beliefs and ancient tradition. Egypt was a civilization grounded in continuity. Egyptians sleep in the open air. During hot summer nights, many Egyptians slept outdoors, on rooftops. Imagine this. You climb a simple staircase to the roof of a warm, clay home. The air is cooler here. The stars shine clearly across the desert sky. The city is quiet, except for distant voices and the soft splash of the river. On the roof, a woven mat lies waiting. Beside it, a headrest, smooth and simple. You lie down, feeling a gentle breeze brush against your skin. You place your head on that wooden support and gaze up at a sky that looks almost the same as it did 4,000 years ago. This is a sleep connected to nature, to sky, to the rhythms of earth. It reminds us that the history of pillows is also the history of how humans have always sought ways to rest in harmony with the world around us. The Nile as a sleep rhythm. Everything in Egypt moved with the Nile. Its flow created a calendar, a cycle, a heartbeat. The rising and falling of its waters dictated agriculture, trade, celebration, and even rest. Nighttime along the Nile was predictable, calming, almost melodic. The riverbanks hummed with quiet life. Frogs, birds, the whisper of reeds as water brushed through them. To sleep near the Nile was to sleep with a lullaby that had existed since antiquity. And somewhere in this peaceful world, beside a simple woven mat, a wooden headrest held the head of a sleeper as they drifted into dreams guided by gods. The cultural legacy of Egyptian pillows. Egyptian headrests influenced neighboring cultures. For centuries, trade through the Red Sea, the Mediterranean, and across Africa spread these ideas outward. Later East African headrests owe their origin to Egyptian models, Arabian designs, echo similar shapes. Even some Asian cultures adopted wooden supports that resemble those of Egypt. The influence of the Nile flowed far beyond its borders. Its philosophy, that sleep is sacred,